Good morning, Breakfast with Bacon fans. I know the favorite shows that I ever do are when I do testimonies. And I had this beautiful couple reach out to me after hearing another testimony on my show. Nikki and Bill Breier have a story you will want to hear. They only had a couple lives in their life, and then they made some more lives when they reconciled. So I'm sure those extra children of yours are very grateful for your reconciliation. But what God has done in this marriage is something I want each of you to pay attention to. God does work miracles. He does his best work in the 12th hour, and it is never, ever hopeless. So, and then if you like what you guys are hearing, remember to like, subscribe, share, all the things. And if you can support my ministry, just click in the link below. I was told by my people I'm supposed to say that up front. I hate doing that, but I'm going to say that up front. Now it's enough of me. Nikki and Bill Breier, thank you for coming on to the Breakfast with Bacon show. You've got quite the story, don't you?
Yes, thanks be to God. We sure do.
I'm going to start with an easy question. How did you meet, and who said I love you first?
That's a really great question. Um, actually the I love you thing. Do you know?
Did you know?
Tell us, Bill. What do you know?
Bill has a really, really good memory, which is really sweet with all of our relationship stuff. He really does. He remembers he remembers a lot of cute things. Actually, so how we met is, and then I'll actually get into a cute memory thing, but how we met was um I was out with friends and we went to Canada. And as I was out with friends, I saw Bill from across the way, and we were at a bar. And where you say, "Oh, you're never gonna meet anyone good." And I do not suggest for anyone to go looking for their spouse at a bar. But
I found
I
mine in a
saw,
nightclub. 42 years later, here we are.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, so it was a nightclub. It was. So I saw Bill from across the way, and there was just something that just instantly drew me to him. And I said I loved him. I looked at him and I was like, I love him. And I didn't even know him. And one of the funny things is I have a really good friend and we used to work together, and she'd always be like, Nikki, tell everyone your story of how you guys met. And one of the parts that she always loved was when I saw Bill, he was standing at the bar and right above his head was an arrow. And the arrow pointed down above him, and on the sign it read, "It starts here." And I saw that, and it's funny that I noticed at all, but we were really young. We were 19, and I just thought he was a wild Canadian boy. I had no idea who he was, and we started talking, and then all of a sudden one of my friends came up to me and she said, "Did you know who that is?" And I said, "No, I have no idea." She's like, "I went to school with him. I've known him since kindergarten." And so he was actually from where we were from, and from Grand Island, and so that was really cute. So part of me was like, well, I have friends that know him, and so it was like a little connection. But the other cute thing I was going to say about the memory was one of the things I love was when me and Bill got married, we were 20, and I was pregnant. I was already pregnant with our first daughter. And we were going through church and talking to a priest and setting things up. And I knew that I wanted to get married before I had Emma as my oldest. I said, I just want to get married now. I don't want to wait till after. And so as I was talking to the priest, and he's like, okay, here's some dates. And one was like October something, and then he gave me November 25th, which is coming up. And so I said, yeah, let's do November 25th. That's good. And just was happy with the date. And so I called Bill right after, and he was like, oh, we picked our anniversary. And it was, I totally had forgotten, but the fact that he remembered that was when we started dating. And I felt like it was actually more special because I didn't force that. It wasn't like I didn't even say like, hey, could we do this date? It completely just escaped my mind. And so I felt like that was, looking back, that's like a confirmation from the Holy Spirit. That was the date of when we started dating. And then, and again too, we were definitely not living our faith. We didn't know what it was to live our Catholic faith the right way. Um, but that's just a small example of, right from the beginning where we could see God was already, like he was walking with us for sure. So,
Bill.
And then, I mean, my perspective was pretty similar. It's funny because, again, God rides straight with crooked lines. So like
for sure.
meet in this, non-holy place, and I had a similar connection, and she stood up to me immediately, and I was happy that, we were talking and things like that. I did not know that she knew anyone that I knew, like, so when the night was over, I kind of thought I'd never see her again, so it was
Yeah.
kind of crazy that she had connections with some of my friends. Um, and then I was like randomly with one of my friends like months later, whatever,
Yeah.
and she called me, and then basically from there we started to hang out again. So like that was really awesome. I mean, I was super happy, and I told my friend, and the timing was funny for me because I didn't have a lot of obviously successful relationships where I would have been further along, and I was kind of at a place where I didn't want to get married, and then
Oh
right
yeah,
after,
this is really good.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
it was like within a month of me like telling my friends I'm
Yeah.
not gonna get married basically, and
Yep.
then I'm like, yeah, I think I just found my wife like right after I met her, and so like I don't know, I knew
Yeah.
we had like a pretty strong connection, and
Mhm.
yeah, everything felt really good. But as Nikki said, we were doing it our own way,
Yeah.
like and I will say, a lot of it was ignorance, like we didn't know all the ins and outs of everything, and how disordered, the way we were doing things was. We were just super happy that one of the things we connected out was like, oh yeah, you go to church, I go to
Yeah.
church too, like
Yeah.
so that'd be one of the things we at least did together,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
yeah, we
And you were
weren't.
both Catholic.
And we're
Yeah.
both
Yeah.
Catholic. Yeah, we're both cradle Catholics, so
Mhm. Yeah.
So
That's
obviously,
when did you realize, so you guys got married a year later, well,
yeah.
on the
Yeah.
year
Yeah.
anniversary,
Literally a
yeah.
year later.
yeah.
Hmm.
And
So,
then your daughter came. Tell me
yeah.
more. So life was good, life was happy, was it unhappy? Did you have
On the surface,
regrets?
it seemed happy for sure. Like and I think, genuinely it was happy. We had two kids. We had our two oldest daughters, and then Madison, and we struggled through a lot of stuff in the beginning. Just young couple. We had two kids. Like I was still working on my degree in college, and Nikki was pretty much riding for the family in the beginning as a cosmetologist, and um, things were good though overall. I think it felt pretty good. And then we just, but like I said, we didn't know how wrong kind of we were, so we didn't have what we understand now is just how grace flows into the family, and how holy how good and holy marriages are, how powerful they are, just a powerful instrument for God. And so, being disordered at some point, the evil one worked his way in, and I ended up, the job market was not very good when I graduated college, and I just couldn't find a job. So I ended up joining the military. And so during the time in the military, we just had a lot of time with her, and basically from there, our marriage was crumbling. It was on the edge of defeat there. And
How long were you
so,
together before you joined the military?
uh,
Ish. 2 years, 3 years, four?
Not
probably
long.
probably like 2, 3 years, yeah,
Yeah.
two, three
Hmm.
years.
Yeah.
It's 2006,
Yep.
2009, yeah, so two,
Yep.
3 years.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. Yeah.
So you're home with the kids, Nikki, and
Yep.
you're working, providing for the families, Bill, and you said you guys are apart a lot. Is that when you first started feeling the cracks?
Yeah, I would say in even like Bill would say, like our foundation was really bad. And so that was obvious, and that's something I try, and we've taught our kids, and which is a beautiful thing. Like we've made these mistakes, but we can teach them through our mistakes. And in a way, it was like we were doomed to destruction because we just had nothing to hold us together. I mean, again, we went to mass, which is crazy. That God, God kept that desire in our heart. And when I first met his family, they were actually getting ready to go to mass, and in my heart, I was like, this is a good thing. Like his family goes to church. Like it was like comforting, and I knew that like, okay, this is something that this could be like a real thing, and it's like God wrote that on my soul, that this is, and again, we were so far from living the right way, but it's amazing how Jesus writes that stuff on your heart. And I had a boyfriend previously to Bill, and I remember someone saying, "Oh, are you guys going to get married?" And I was like, "Well, he's actually not the same, he was different faith than I was." And they're like, "Oh, it's no big deal." And so I look back and I'm like, because of what we accomplished, well, actually, we didn't accomplish anything, but what God was able to accomplish through us, we could not have done if we didn't have the sacraments. I mean, no way. Like, and, so that was just a huge part of that. But yeah, so going back to like, so we didn't have a good foundation, and Bill came from a really stable childhood. His mom and dad were married and together, and really good, like really good and normal. And my story was I came from a little bit more craziness, and sadly I just wasn't shown the best example. And so a big thing that even if I wasn't super aware of it, and maybe I can see it better now, but I think that I was just shown that relationships are really disposable. And so for me, it was like, okay, well, if this isn't working and I don't feel fulfilled, well, then I'm just going to move on to the next thing. And I had seen a lot of divorce, and even though we were married in the church and everything, like it kind of didn't phase me. And I know that sounds horrible, but that was the reality of it. And so I wasn't feeling fulfilled, or I wasn't, and now we know, like, Bill's not here to fulfill me. Like, we know that Jesus is the one who fills that space in our heart. So for both of us, um,
But let's
and
be
so
fair. Let's be fair, right? I mean, I was married in the 80s. You guys were married in what did you say? The late 90s, 2000s?
2006. Yeah,
2006.
2006.
Oh, yeah. So you're married in the new millennium. And no one ever says what true marriage is, or that it is
Right.
you're
Yeah,
going to have a hard
yes,
time.
yes,
And the church isn't really going to support you because all of our priests and deacons and even our bishops, really at this point, have all come
yeah,
from the divorce culture. And so
yes,
they have to deal with their parents' divorces. And so
yeah,
we've been
Yep.
taught, just,
Yep.
oh, this happens, it hurts, go move on, right? And
yes,
Yep.
so
yes,
now when we go to our priests, they're kind of living out of their own, like, okay, well, it happens, it's tough, but move on. And
yeah,
so this is why you weren't taught. I mean, we can't
yeah,
begrudge you for not knowing
yeah,
because
Mhm.
none of us
yeah.
knew and none of us were told anything.
Yeah, for sure. There was a priest actually, I just was on a retreat, and he said that people will come to him to get married for like the premarital counseling. And he said, he asked them, why do you guys want to get married? And they say, well, because we love each other. And he's like, no, you don't. You don't even know how to love yet. Like, and he said something that was so beautiful. He was like, you're getting married to learn how to love. And I was like, wow, that is so profound because it's so true. Like, we're like, you're a Google Gaga. Like, I was head
That's
over
right.
heels with them, like, man, but that really that's not what it's about. And it's like, that's our vocation. That's what God's calling us to. And through that, He's going to sanctify us and teach us truly how to love. And that's sacrificial. And true love like my mom, I remember my mom telling me, she was like, 'cause she was really instrumental when we were getting back together, but she was like, Nikki, love is not a feeling. It's a choice.
Right.
You know, and that's definitely our culture is like all about how do you feel? How do you feel? And it's like,
Right.
listen,
I
if you,
feel
well, that's what I
offended.
did.
You've got to change how you speak to me. Oh, really? Stop feeling offended. It's your choice, you know?
Yes, exactly. So, yeah, so ultimately, once, and we say, and I think this is something I've picked up too, is like we can always say, like, we can blame the enemy, like, oh, he did this to us. But you know what? I look back and I really think that it wasn't, yes, obviously, because the enemy is the one who loves the evil stuff, and he saw that we were super weak. But God allowed something so beautiful. He allowed me and Bill, it was a 3-year process, but we hit absolute rock bottom. And again, like the enemy came in, like we can say, like, oh, showing me someone who, oh, Nikki, look at, like, here you go. Here's the answer to what you're looking for, right? And and it's like, and again, what was my mentality? It's like, oh, okay, well, this must be what God wants. Because look at how everything's happening. Like, and so poor Bill, like because we were not perfect beforehand. I was definitely happy, like, to be a mom and a wife, and I wasn't looking to party with my friends. I would hang out with my girlfriends, like they'd come over and we'd have like a couple of drinks and have dinner and stuff like that. That was the extent of me getting crazy at that point. But with Bill, he still had some wild, what do they say, wild oats to sow? And so, but like, but really though, like, so there was it wasn't like I was just
Well,
like,
let's kind of go to the breakup. Let's go to the breakup because I mean, we all know that it's our faith and that we weren't living our faith. And I'll come back to like some of the things that fed into it. But did you guys get divorced? Did you get separated? Was there
yes,
infidelity? And this is
yes,
the thing because so many people think, oh, those reconciled couples, they really didn't go through anything too tough.
exactly.
So what
Yes.
can you take us to the point of break?
Yes. And so that's what, like, what basically what I'm saying is like, so it wasn't just like I wasn't like, okay, well, I'm just done. Like there were things where again, like I was being let down. So that's what basically led to this. And now again, on the surface level, it didn't seem like it was that bad or to our family or our friends. And so as Bill's away, like he went away and he's like, I'm trying to better myself. Like I want to be a better dad, want to be a better husband. So that's kind of like where that ties in because it's not like it just came out of nowhere. You know what I mean? Like you can
Yeah, just because, my state in life, it all happened so fast, just growing up, right? So like obviously I wasn't a good husband and father in the beginning. Like I was in college and I was living a college life and
Yeah.
I was away from home and then I would come home and be a dad and husband for the time I was there. And so but like nothing really seemed off because I didn't know any better really. And like looking back, obviously you're like, wow, you're an idiot. Like until you mature and things like that, right? Like you don't
Yeah.
kind of comprehend how crazy some of the stuff
Yeah.
is that you're doing. And so Nikki was just super happy being a mom and stuff. And through different means, she would say how happy or dishappy she was with some of the things I was doing or whatever. And I didn't fully understand. But the funny part is when I left, I had a lot of time to reflect and
Yeah.
I felt like I became a lot closer to God. And I was like, man, I'm gonna like
Mhm.
turn a new leaf over and like
Mhm.
blah blah blah.
Mhm.
Like by the time I came back, like it was all messed up. Like Nikki had like
Yeah.
she like said she moved on and whatever. And so like I was like, wow, this is the sort of what I was thinking was gonna
Yeah. Yeah.
So you said you left. You're not talking about a military deployment. You're saying you
Yes.
left for
um
Yes.
marriage.
yeah, so yeah, so I was just away. I was away doing
Camp.
yeah, so I was away for uh like a quarter of the year and like very little contact or whatever. And yeah, so during that time, like he just
Yeah.
listened to the voices in her head, I guess,
Yeah.
like and that was just funny how we just totally
Yeah.
diverged at that point and I didn't understand why. And so over the next however many, handful of years, like we were kind of that because, like I said, I wasn't ready to give up when she was done because, like I said, I just kind of got to the point where, like, man,
Yeah.
I want to make things work. Like, I know I've done a lot of wrong. Like, let me make it up, like blah, blah, blah. And then she's like, no, I'm done. And then, you know, I would get frustrated. Again, even though I felt like I was in a better spot, I still wasn't like deeply rooted in my faith. It was like more superficial. And it's funny because I had kind of always thought of like the parable of the sower and the seeds, like as almost like a one-time event. But like kind of recently I've
Yeah.
been reflecting on it and it's like it just comes up over and over again in your life, right? For different scenarios. Like
That's very true.
sometimes every time you need to grow, sometimes you're that, this
Yeah.
seed on,
Yeah.
the rocky ground and you're like, oh yeah, I'm good. And that's kind of where I was in that point too. I was like, wow, I got this whole thing figured out. Like you can't stop me. And then like the first time you run into a headwind, I was like, you know what? This God stuff didn't work. I'm done.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then that's kind of the way it happened at some point. And so then she was done at first, then
Well,
we
I'm
kind of
not clear on that. So I want to make sure our viewers are clear. Who
Sure.
said to the other one, I want out? Who was the first one to say, I want out?
Yeah, it was definitely me because when Bill had come home, then he was wanting things to be good, and I said, "Well, I'm really sorry, but right away I was like, I've moved on, and
Were you
because
still
of
in the
how
same
things
house or were you in, had you moved out of the house?
yeah, we had an apartment. I mean, we were living together in an apartment when he had come home, and and to be honest, I really and it's really sad, but I really thought Bill wouldn't care, to be honest with you. Like, and again, that's probably the mentality of like what I kind of grew up with. But when I approached him, his response to me, I was very shocked that he was like, "No, I don't want this to be over. Like, I want to make things better." And the irony of here, he's going to get a better relationship and grow closer with God, and I was literally going the complete opposite, like basically paving my way to hell. And so and another thing too, even like he went to the chaplain for the Navy and then came home one day and was like talking to me and he said, Nick, if you don't stop, like you're gonna go to hell. And I was like, no, stop. Like that's just how sin blinds you so terribly, where I was truly so confused. And I mean that from like the bottom of my heart. Like and people wonder, like they wonder how in the world could you be living or doing or making these choices? How could you be thinking that this could have possibly been a good thing? But when you're living in sin, you are truly blind. And we would beg our Lord. And that's basically what takes to the next thing is like, and again, this is another, you know, a glimmer of hope for people is like, like me and Bill got right back together either. This was a 3-year battle, like literally 3 years of ups and downs and like going back and forth. And so, it wasn't fixed overnight. And, in the scheme of things, where God brought us in 3 years was actually like pretty, pretty crazy. But I finally got to the point where, so my mom, it was funny going back to like the example I had and thinking Bill wouldn't care. Like, I'm like, Bill, you know what? I'm just going to move on. We're going to go separate ways. We're just going to move on. And then when I'm telling my mom, I'm thinking my mom's not going to care and my family isn't going to care. And family was very accepting, except for my mom. And it was funny because my mom was like, I am not going to let you repeat the sins that I did. I'm not going to let you do it.
Nice.
So God came in at the most perfect time with her. And even Bill would confide in her. He would call her and say, she's not listening to me. I can't get through to her. Like, so my mom was really a blessing for Bill too at the same time. So with my mom, again, going back to God's perfect timing, she was starting to learn her faith and God was teaching her so many beautiful things. And she came to me one day and she was like, I want you to as we're in the battle of this, like, Bill's super sad. He's not with us anymore. I'm by myself. We're dating different people at this point. I mean, and that's the other thing too. Like we had dated. other people. It wasn't even just that person that, initially I was with. Um, we had dated a bunch of other people, and so then one day was with truly my rock bottom, and I'm so grateful. Um, I was so used to Bill just being like, okay, yeah, let's work on it again for like a month. But then he would let me down and I'd be like, okay, I'm done again, and I'd go on to whatever else bad thing I was doing. And so what was so great was that then one time we went to go exchange picking up the girls. He had the girls and I met him in a parking lot at the store. And so I was like, I'm just gonna tell him today, like, we're gonna get back together. But whatever boyfriend I had at the time, was showing me their true colors. And so I was like, well, me and Bill are just gonna get back together. Well, I got into his truck and I started telling him how I felt and what I wanted to do. And like he just wouldn't even look at me. He wouldn't look at me. He basically said, like, I hate you, you're disgusting, like get out of my truck. And like we're never getting back together. Like just get that out of your head. Like it's not gonna happen. And so obviously I was super upset. But it was the best thing he ever could have done because that
Because
was my rock bottom.
well, and before that,
That
you had your
showed
cake and
me,
ate it too. It's like you can date and be with other
yeah,
guys and know that you always had your husband there. And a lot of people they're
exactly.
shocked when it's like, actually, the time when you say I'm done
Yeah,
is the time that wakes you up because it was, I left my husband for another man. We were apart 2 years. And after those 2 years, I kicked the other guy out and I was on my own. And only then did I file for divorce because it was like, well, maybe that's our next steps. And then it was after I filed for divorce that my husband was like, oh, hell no. He was like, no, no. And so it sometimes takes the thing that you don't think that's going to flip them over. And yeah, so he was there and he was available. It made you not appreciate him. But once he wasn't there,
yes,
it's like, ooh,
yeah,
yeah.
yes,
Really quickly, though. So again, I don't want you to have to share anything that you didn't want to share. But you said you're both dating and you said not the initial guy. So did you have an affair? Did you leave him for another man? And
yes,
that's why you said, I don't want to be with
yes.
you. Do you?
Yeah, so basically that was basically what it was just and I had a friend who was like, again, you can't blame anyone, right? Like you can't play the blame game, but it's like I had friends that, they weren't making the greatest choices, like, oh, Nikki, like here. When I look back and I'm like, what's that, and again, can't blame, but you are people you have to be very careful of who you surround yourself with because if there are people, and actually Bill kind of had an experience like this too, where it's like they see you, they see that you're happy, they see that you have things that they want, and and it's so sad, but it's true. Like, and I felt like it was like, oh, Nikki, look, like, why don't you hang out with this guy? Why in the world would that be a good idea? Boys and girls cannot be friends. Like, it's just true,
Right. Especially
like,
married boys and girls. Right.
exactly, exactly. And it's like, but again, we didn't really have the even like modesty in a relationship or like anything that thinking, like at
Yeah.
all.
Friends will
But
try to
so
push you in a direction that makes them feel better about their situations.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
And sadly, and then I'm like, okay, well, what do you think's gonna happen, right? Like we're hanging out and it's like, and then I have this guy who's promising me the stars and the moon. It's like, okay, well, again, going back in my sinful way I'm thinking, and I'm like, okay, this is it, right? This is supposed to happen. And so this is the answer to my prayer, which is so deducted, but like again, when you're living a sinful life, you truly can't see. And I have compassion. And me and Bill both, we have a lot of compassion for people because of where we were
Yes.
in like because I was so genuinely saying, Jesus, show me if this isn't what you want, which is crazy, like for thinking is it the answer to my prayer. And I begged
About
Blessed
the
Mother,
other man, you were asking God, show me if this is what you want. Is that what you said?
oh yeah. Oh
Okay.
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
So you
yeah, for
can think
sure.
God is going to bless this sinful
Yes.
thing. And it's like so
Yes.
crazy.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So
Can I ask
yeah.
Bill real quick? Bill, how did you find out about the affair? Did she tell you or did you find out or when you
Yeah,
came home from deployment?
she told me right away, and she kind of walked into it, like uh kind of started out a little vague,
So you came home from
after.
deployment? Is that what you're saying? And then she's telling you that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it was just it was training for officer training, but you're still away for however many
Right.
months. And then so I came back and yeah, at some point, things were I didn't notice that things were weird kind of immediately because, I'm sure she was just, trying to didn't know how to say anything at first, right? So then after I don't know how much time, she started to tell me how things were weird because she wasn't gone when I got back, not physically. Like she showed up when I got home and all that, and so everything was I didn't I didn't
You didn't
understand right
suspect it.
away.
Yeah.
But then quickly she was just like telling me stuff, and like she said in the beginning, like she would tell me the different interactions she'd have with the guy and whatever, and I was like I said, I thought I was like in a good holy spot at one point. It's like, don't worry about it. We can get over anything. It's not a big deal, like, and then it just slowly escalated and to the point where, I don't know, at some point she just thought it was too much or whatever. And so then there was just like a break from there and she's like, it's not going to work out, whatever. And so I was home full time from that, like during that. And it was just like, I knew about it from the beginning, kind of when I got back, but then at some point it was like, yep, now it's time to be done. Um, and
The
that's how I
affair,
found
you
out.
mean? It was kind of like it's time for this to be done. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so it was kind of I guess I kind of on and off in the beginning, and then at some point she was like, "No, I'm going this way," and then she left me and she went with the other guy, and so then I felt like I was by myself, and I didn't particularly fly off the handle there. Like I wasn't, I still was like trying to be like prayerful and things like that in the beginning, but again, I was definitely super weak, and I remember one inflection point for me, and yeah, we would on and off talk. And then same thing, like uh, you know, as much as whatever she did something first, we were both like just flat out just dating other people, but like still talking,
Mhm.
like and I mean,
And you hadn't
for
even
other
filed
people.
for legal separation or divorce, and
No, no, we didn't
Yeah.
do anything
isn't that
paperwork
crazy how
wise in the
we can do that too?
beginning.
Yeah.
And then I remember one distinct point where because again I was trying to make it work in the beginning and just a super prideful moment where, I'm talking to God, 'cause just like she's saying, like, oh my God, if this is right. I'm like, you know what? I was like, God, this is like the last thing. If this doesn't work, I'm done.
Mhm.
And so like I'm putting it, hey, this is my time frame, not your time frame, God. Like, and he said, no, it's not my time yet. And I was like, well, I'm done then. So then that's when I was like,
Yeah.
I'm done. Then the light switch was off for me
Yeah.
and I was over it. And
Yeah.
then we ended up, you
And you
know,
guys were living separately at this point? You're
we were
still living.
living separately. It was funny because we were sharing a lawyer like to get divorced. Like literally like as we're like in the thing,
Yeah.
like he's like, why are you guys getting divorced?
Yeah.
Like it's like
He's like, this is so dumb. He's like, what?
That's
He's like,
awesome. The
what?
lawyer said that.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. He's like, what? He's like, what are you guys doing?
yeah,
Like, this is so dumb. He's like, just get back together. Like, but so yeah, that was really funny. It was like, I don't know, we did pay like $1,800 or
yeah.
something.
We didn't give us our money back.
No.
He did give us good advice. And we didn't technically like reconcile there, but we kind of like I don't know, I guess stop proceedings from there,
Yeah. Like I don't know, just didn't go further. Just I don't know. It was like a weird meeting. We paid money and then that was basically it. So
I
yeah.
think we're still married.
Oh,
So did you keep dating other people or did you stop? What happened first? Did you stop dating other people and then you decide you're gonna move back in, or did you say, we need to make this work? We need to both stop dating.
yeah, well, I'll tell you. So it was that day that so when I hit my rock bottom, so I called my mom. So my mom had been cheering us on, and but she knew I kept going back and forth and making bad choices. So God was giving her all these beautiful tools, and one of the most beautiful things that she learned about was the divine mercy. And so she said, Nikki, I want you to start praying this. And I was like, yeah, yeah, ma, sure, whatever. And so then when I hit my rock bottom, I called her and I was crying my eyes out. And she was, first of all, she's like, is someone dead? Like, because I was just in hysterics, and I'm like, no, no, everyone's alive. And she's like, okay. She's like, what is going on? I was like, so I told her, and she's like, okay, are you ready? Are you ready now? Like, are you ready to work for your marriage? Are you ready to pray and to sacrifice? And like, do all these things because she's like, you can save this. She's like, you know, well, I can't. She's like, but you know, you allow Jesus to use you and you know, and this can get better. And I said, Mom, I don't care what you want me to do. Tell me to do it and I'll do it. And so she took me to confession. It was like there was like a divine mercy thing. She took me to confession and I remember looking at the examination of conscience because like, you know, that was not something we did. We didn't really go to confession and I'm like, oh man, I've done that, I've done that. Like so I got this whole flow of like, and I was running out of space. And so I go into the confessional, I'll never forget, and the priest he was so wonderful. And he was like, that was the most wonderful confession I've ever heard. And, you know, because I mean, I went in there and I told him like, this is all the stuff I've been doing. And he was wonderful. He was such a great priest. And even still, so I did that. And then I started praying the divine mercy. And so I had like, Jesus was giving me grace to start this, but there was such a pull and a battle going on. Like, and now, I mean, we obviously understand the seriousness of why that is. And so I start praying, I start going to adoration, I start going to
Were you
mass.
seeing another man at this point?
No, because at that point I was like, okay, I'm gonna, and, and probably if there was anyone, I specifically, I'll never forget this. There was one guy that I was talking to. He was very nice, and I remember telling him that I can't talk to you anymore. And I said, this was before me and Bill were ever like, we weren't even back together yet. I was just starting on my prayer journey. And I said to him, I want to make my marriage work and I want to become a saint. And to say this to this person who's probably like, you are literally crazy. And especially because of like how the life I was living. But I said, I want, like, Jesus just lit me on fire. Like, I wanted to go to mass every day. I wanted to go to adoration. Like, I wanted to do all these things that was not a part of my life at all. And so when I said, I was so genuine, I said, I'm so sorry I can't talk to you anymore. Like, I want to heal my relationship with my husband and I want to become a saint. And he respected that and he left me alone. Like, and he was like, okay, like, you know, crazy, like, but that's fine, whatever. But, you know, we started, and then another very significant, so as I'm doing this, and Bill was very hurt. He was so hurt. And he did not want to talk to me. He wanted nothing to do with me. So I'm trying to like, I'm praying and I'm begging the Lord to help me. And so at one point I say to Bill, he probably was like dropping the girls off at the house or something. And so I said, what did I tell you? I said, probably had said, you know, like, I probably said, hey, you need to pray the divine mercy or you need to go to confession or something along those lines. And then it basically led to him saying, like, I could never trust you again. I could never get back with you. Like, you know, because how you look at all the stuff you've done to me. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't blame him. Like, then I looked at him, and this was totally the Holy Spirit because it just came out of me. And I said, yeah, but I'm not worried about hurting you anymore. I don't want to hurt God. I don't want to hurt Jesus. And he
Yeah,
said,
I thought it was so weird. Like, what are you talking about? Like, how is somebody more important than me? You know, like I was still dumb and early in my journey, and so it was funny to hear that for sure. And I was like, what? Like, I'm not number one? Like, yeah,
Did it make you more
so
attracted
mad.
to her? Because I know there's a lot of people that are like, "Ah, what do you mean?" And yet there's a truth in that that makes it
yeah,
attractive to hear. It's like, I'm not number one, but wow. Do you know
Yeah.
what I'm
yeah.
talking about? And did you experience any of that,
I
Bill?
didn't have the wow right then. I was like, well, I was still super blinded and I was, I was far down the slippery slope. And so I'm
And you're with another
doing,
girl at this point, I'm
yeah,
guessing.
I'm like doing dumb stuff and like,
Probably lead up to like from that point, because I think that was definitely a turning point for you to see like, you know, 'cause he could see
yeah,
me changing, you know.
yeah. So, I mean, that was, you know, actions speak louder than words, right? You
Yeah,
can say whatever you
Yeah.
want.
yeah.
Mhm.
But like I said, we obviously had to stay connected the whole time because we had the
Mhm.
kids and I never doubted that she loved the kids and I don't think she ever doubted that I loved the kids. And so like that was our excuse me, that was our common link to keep us talking,
Yeah.
the whole time.
And were you
And
talking
so
nice to each other, or were you being jerks? Were you
yeah,
yelling,
we were
calling names?
honest.
Yeah.
We were
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
we were always cordial, and like
Yeah.
there was like like there was
Yeah.
very few
Yeah.
flare-ups. Even that's why that's
Yeah.
why in the beginning that was one of the reasons that was surprising to me, because like we never fought. Like we've
Yeah.
had like a few minor fights in our relationship before we split up.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we stayed
Hey,
in touch.
I'd like to stop you there for a second because
Yeah,
that's one thing I like to say to people when they're one of the common misconceptions is that, oh, if you had an affair, you just didn't love me or our marriage was bad. And I said, my marriage was fine. We were pregnant
Mm,
with my second child, which is
yeah,
really humiliating, but I'm no
yeah.
longer going to be under Satan's humiliation, right?
Right,
It's
right,
like, but I was
right,
pregnant with our second child when I started my
right,
no.
affair. And
right.
and so it's usually a thing of I didn't have my boundaries up or and Nikki, you look a lot like me. You're happy, bubbly. Sometimes you
Yeah.
just fall into it and you're like, you're thinking nothing of it. And then you're like,
Yeah.
whoa, how did it get so close? So I want people to realize,
Yes.
no, it does not mean you had a bad marriage. It just meant
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
you didn't know what you're doing. You stepped too close.
right.
You fell in. And
Yeah,
Yeah.
after you fall into affair, all of a sudden, because of the limerence and they call it the love cocktail in an affair, I call it the lust cocktail all of a sudden with
Yeah.
this elevation of these different hormones that makes risk taking higher, dopamine, your sensitivity goes up, all these things, you no longer ever remember feeling those same feelings for your spouse. You're like, oh no, this is
Mhm.
new. And
Yeah.
so the body and these hormones and these feelings lie to us. And Satan takes advantage of it. It's like, I never
Yeah.
loved you like I love this
mm,
guy.
Yeah.
And so
mm,
yeah, I want people to know affairs happen because many times. I don't want to say accidentally because we take full responsibility for them,
Yes.
but
mm,
Yes.
we
Yes.
step too close to a ledge and then we fall
Yeah.
off and going because we never intended to have affairs.
Yes.
It's like,
Yes.
oh, what did I do? Yeah. Anyway, I just
Yeah.
wanted to touch that because it
Yeah.
wasn't like I hate you, you're horrible, let me go sleep with somebody.
No, 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 not at all. And in all honesty, too, just like what you said, and it was something because of what I grew up with, I didn't want to repeat, which is so sad because with my whole heart, I was like, yeah, like we're gonna get married and this is gonna be great. And so you're totally right. That wasn't, yeah, there was, we didn't, even, yeah, we never screamed at each other. It wasn't, and a lot of people were very surprised, like very surprised, like, what? Like, what, how did this happen? And, and then, again, just, we, honestly, we just have to go back to like, God just, at the very perfect time with my mom being at support where, how beautiful that, like, yeah, maybe growing up, I didn't have the best example, but there she was to say,
At the
I'm
right
not going to
time.
let you do that. Like, Nikki, I'm not going to let you do that. I'm not going to let you repeat the same things I did. And she fought with me. She prayed and she fasted. And, she would tell me, she's like, I would prostrate myself on the floor and pray because she also took into consideration here I have these two little girls and she didn't want the destruction for them either. So it was a really serious thing when you think about it, like chains being broken and all these really significant things. And we started, with Bill, and I could see him once he started to see me changing and see me pray and going to church. And then I could see him little by little, like I could see him coming around more. And like he would come over to the apartment and he wouldn't leave. And it was he'd maybe sleep on the couch or maybe he would watch the girls at my apartment. But I'm like, okay, like I was starting slowly to build his trust. And and then 5 years in, so after our 3-year battle, so then we renewed our vows.
See, wait, well, oh, you
After
just jumped way far ahead. Okay.
oh,
So
yeah,
you were apart living in separate houses for 3 years.
yeah,
yeah,
Okay.
something like that. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, so you said then he's coming over and stuff.
yeah.
When was his
I mean,
decision to say, let's move back in together?
yeah, I know she kind of said
like really
she
slowly
snapped it
gradually.
faster to start following her faith and following her faith. For me, it was like just seeing, kind of seeing the action over time. Exactly what you said. Mine was a lot more slowly. Like I don't have an inflection point. Mine was just like little by little.
Yeah,
But like it's just so funny because like in the battle, basically everyone, if all your friends are worldly, right? Like
Yeah.
they look at what happened and they're like, what do you know, like why would you ever get back? You
Yeah,
know, like
yes,
say,
yes.
like your
Yeah.
girlfriends or your boyfriends, like they're all like, like this is terrible. Why would you ever blah blah blah, like
Why would you get back
and
together with that person? Yeah,
right, right. So you always
Yeah.
get affirmation that
Yeah,
yeah.
she did
staying
that to
away
you.
is
You
yeah,
deserve
Yes,
is
better.
like the
yeah,
best advice,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
or justifying what you did because your friend's like, oh yeah, remember the stories you told, blah blah blah. Like,
yeah,
like so ever like misery loves company, So
Right.
you always get, and it's probably a bunch of people who have problems in their own life
yeah.
that just want you to be with them. So like a lot of it was more slow for me. So exactly what you said. I mean, just kind of over time, and I could see how genuine she was and everything that she was doing, and we started to talk more, and I flat out stopped going to church.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
And
Stopped going to
during
church or started going to
oh
church?
yeah,
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 like before, like I had stopped going to church during this ordeal, like because I couldn't sit in any quiet place because like my mind would just wander, like so I just stopped going to church and all that, and then we just kind of slowly, because she really wanted to get back together, and so like I said, we had the girls, so we were always kind of encountering each other, and once I saw how genuine she was in wanting to change, really, I don't need like this is when
yeah.
it connected back together. It just kind of like we just kind of slowly
Even a renewal.
mesh back
You started
together.
Yeah,
sleeping over at her house, and then
Yeah,
yes,
eventually
exactly.
yes,
Yeah,
your
yes.
lease
exactly.
Real.
expired, and you're like, let me just stay here. Or did you buy a
Yeah,
Yeah,
house?
exactly. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And it was funny because it would be like I wouldn't say anything, but I would be so happy, like question him. I wouldn't ask anything, but I would be like, he's not leaving, like, and so that would make me really happy. But the thing that was even to give people hope too in this is like, so the vow renewal was actually, and why I brought that up was because we were still not 100% even then. And in that, like we literally went, so it was so beautiful because we went to the same church we got married at, and it was in the little chapel off of the church, and we invited our closest family and friends that were supporting us through this stuff. And at the end of it, I felt like the Holy Spirit wanted me to get up, and I did, and I basically said, how much it meant for all the people that were there, and I said, this means so much that you guys are here because to be here with us today after all that they've seen. I mean, they saw everything we'd gone through, and I was crying, and actually even his brother was really upset with me. I didn't blame him, And the most beautiful thing happened, Christine, like at the end of that, like he came up to me. He did not want to come. He did not want to come.
Who,
His
his
mom and dad made him
brother?
come. His brother, Bill's brother. And, I knew he didn't want to be there, but the Holy Spirit touched his heart and he came up to me after and he hugged me. And it was like, he was, because that was because, with the closest family members, and that's another thing like me and you kind of have even talked briefly about is like wearing the scarlet letter and being like, what's our family going to think about it? What's our friends going to think about it? And that deters a lot of people's decisions of even getting back together. So, and Bill would even say, like, he's like, "Hey, once I tell people this stuff, it's going to really change how things are going between me and you because, people are going to be upset, on both sides. And so that's something so beautiful and so significant. But even at that point, like, it wasn't like at our vow renewal, we were like, we're not perfect yet by any means. Or even, we were still on a journey. It was like God gave us that time as like, let me give you guys some more grace to help you with like, what's going to be coming up, for your future and your journey together. Um, Even in that, it wasn't perfect yet, or what our idea of perfect is, you
I
know.
think a couple significant things kind of along the journey from being separated to being back
Reconciled.
together in marriage is that, or I guess we were never unmarried
Yeah.
by the church or legally, but was during Nikki's time when she was like she was the one trying to get me back, and we did something through the church. We did a retro
Yes, yes, very important.
marriage renewal retreat,
Yeah.
and it wasn't, it's all like, yeah, like it
Yeah.
was before the,
Yeah.
like somewhere from rock
Yeah.
bottom to getting back together, it was somewhere in the middle there, and she was super into it, and like
Mhm.
thinking like, oh man, this thing saves marriages or whatever, and I just was not having it. It was like very bad timing, like, and I just felt nothing. Like it was really bad. And I distinctly remember, like we had, because someone else that was giving talks there had like a similar story to ours. And the part that was the game changer for me was we had a one-on-one with them, and person who, um,
It was the wife, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
the wife, the husband left the wife, and
Yeah.
so the wife, I'm like looking for me. I'm like, how do you
Yeah.
get over it, right? Like when it
Yeah.
was done, because it was bad timing. And she's like, well,
You don't.
every day it just hurts a little bit less. And I was like, for me, I was like, well,
Yeah.
if this is what the road is, then
Yeah.
no way. And so
Yeah.
I still pray for them because I think about that all the time, because where we're at now,
Yeah.
like you're thinking about, again, like time heals all wounds. Like, no, that's a lie. Like Jesus Christ heals all wounds. Like I don't,
Mhm.
like, and it's so funny. We talk about it all the time, like how much all the other stuff we said to each other, like I 100% trust her and everything. And like, I don't have any feel feelings, like, and I don't think about any of the stuff from like that's like complete healing. Like
Yeah.
look at us talking about it, like nothing bothers me. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah, I know. I
it's like
know.
once Jesus fills you
Yeah.
up, like like fills that
Well, it
shape hole in
steals
your
that
heart,
shame
like
because Satan tries to
yeah,
keep the shame on top. Oh, don't forgive him. Don't forget what she did. Don't.
no, I know.
And then when you finally like, get out of here, Satan, it's easier to just kind of, you know what?
Yeah.
It really, really
Yeah,
is.
no, it's just, I mean, Satan knows your name and calls you by your
Yeah.
sin, and God knows your sins and calls you by your name. Like
Mm.
it's
Yeah.
that's the way it is. So I mean, it's
Yeah, that was one of the most beautiful, that's definitely one of the most beautiful parts of our story because while we were there, he was like, I remember he wanted to leave, but on the drive to this marriage, it was called Retro Vibe. On the way there, our wedding song played on the car ride there. Just came on randomly. And so that was really funny. And then we were there, and he was just cold as ice to me. But he said, okay, fine. If this lady tells me that like she's healed and she's fine, he goes, then I'll continue with this. He goes, but if she says no, he goes, I'm gone. And sure enough, she did not say yes. And so Bill said, you know what? We're out of here. And he literally went and we packed our bags. We left early. And on the drive home, we literally became friends. We went for tacos. And we were like, yeah, it was just so funny. But then fast forward a couple years later, I think I was pregnant with Landon.
well, you got to talk about our friend over here too.
I did. Well, Divine Mercy obviously was like a huge part of this, but the connection, this is a connection still with like this whole thing with this lady at Retrovive.
So
So
you went
as
out to get
we're
tacos with another couple?
No, it's just no,
Oh, just the
we
two of
quit the
you.
retreat. We quit the retreat.
Oh, you
It
left the
was rushed.
retreat early.
we literally left the tree because Bill was so upset. He was like, that lady didn't say that things are gonna heal. He's like, so we're out of here. And I was like, okay, fine. So we leave and we literally became friends. Literally, that's what I was saying. Like we became buddies, like driving home because we drove together. We got tacos and like we started to become friends again, which was so funny. But through this, what other thing that was very significant about this was we had really started working on like at this point we had renewed our vows. We were going to like things to help us get better in our faith. And so we were sitting in the car one day right before we were about to go in to whatever with some Christ-centered, meeting or something. And Bill looked at me and we weren't saying anything. I was just sitting there, whatever, and he said, Nikki, that lady lied to me. And I was like, oh no. I'm thinking, what? Like, what is he talking about? Like, what terrible thing are we going to be talking about from like, what did I do? And he's like, that lady lied to me. And I was like, what lady? And he was like, the lady from that retro vibe. He's like, he goes, because she told me that, it wouldn't go away. That's what she said. He said, it's not going to go away. Now you got to think this is only a couple years into our getting back together, maybe a year, maybe even a year, maybe just a year. And he said, what she said isn't true because it's all gone. It's gone. I don't think about it. And I'm not hurting. And that was so significant because God bless this poor lady. Like it had been years and years and years since they had,
And it still hurt.
had
So
their
she hadn't let
troubles.
go of it.
Yes, she was still hurting, and it breaks my heart. But for Bill to say that to me, for him to be like, "It's gone. She lied. Like it's not true." I don't think about it. It's not hurting me because it was obviously affecting him very, very much. Like, it was on his head, in his head and on his heart, and God literally took that away. Obviously, we cooperated with the sacraments and graces and stuff, but we're and again too, and I know I told you this. It's not just this isn't like, oh, we had a little argument. It was a 3-year ordeal.
Yeah, 3 year
And
separation.
yeah, like to say to, people say, oh, like, as far as hope goes, I mean, if God could heal and help me and Bill to accomplish what we did, there's nobody that he can't. He truly, like truly.
Yes. Yes.
And again, like I was pointing out to the Divine Mercy Jesus, like that was one of the things that helped us grow. Like
Oh
Nikki
yeah.
was the first one to learn about the Divine Mercy Chaplet, and I didn't know anything about it, but that was one of the things I remember explicitly, like as we were getting closer, like one of the, proofs that she was changing, like we would always do the chaplet, and like we'd pray the chaplet at 3 o'clock, and like so it was like a,
The
you know,
girls learn how to sing it.
yeah, exactly,
The
yeah,
little my head Emma and Maddie were like I played it on repeat. I mean,
yeah.
anywhere we went, it was playing in the car, and Emma and Maddie would, they were so little, and thanks be to God, they were small when we went through this stuff. They learned they would be in the back, singing their
For
heart
the
out to the
sake of a
Divine Mercy
sorrowful
Chaplet.
passion. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's what we did all the time, and
Yeah.
and so that was. I mean, I attribute everything, like really, truly, truly, especially because not even just our marriage, but just Jesus being merciful with
Excuse
us
me.
and our own journeys
Mm.
that we had, even our separate journeys through our life.
Yeah, I wanted to ask too then. So when did you each really start going to church regularly? Because, Bill, you were saying, yeah, I wasn't really
Yeah,
into the church thing. When did you say, I need to go weekly? Was Divine Mercy first? Was Mass first? Was Retrovi first?
definitely just, well, probably Retrovive, man. I'm a little fuzzy on because like I said, for me, I wasn't like okay, I'm all back in that. It was like I definitely was like dipping my toe in. So I would probably say just starting to go to mass, and as I would learn more, I would do more, right? We'd learn more together, right? I remember we did
Female confession.
I did, a general confession, after Nikki, like, and so I had the same
Yeah.
thing, and it was just so funny because there was really no setup. I just jumped in a random line.
Yeah.
And Tuesday afternoon confession, I talked to the priest. He's like, "Oh, that's a lot of stuff." Well, but yeah, I mean, it was very, powerful because I think he understood, like in persona Christi, like God knew what I needed then, and like it was very relieving for me, like it felt like the weight was off your chest and all that, and so. We started to go to church more, and then obviously we're going to church together as a family, with me and
Yeah.
Nikki and the kids, and um, as we're learning more, we've been incorporating more. Uh, we did like we started going to Divine Mercy Sundays very religiously,
Mhm.
like just
Right. Which
engulfing our
what a
lives
gift
in.
those are to know
Oh
that you no
Yeah.
yeah.
longer have to do any purgatory time for any
Yeah.
of me.
So
I'm
yeah,
like,
so we
whew,
were.
I had some big sins. Even if I
Those
died
those were
now, I'd
real
only have
big
to worry
for us.
about
Yeah.
April of this year till, now. So, did you guys ever contracept or were you open to life? Because if you were kind of nominal
That's
Catholics,
funny.
and then
Oh
after you get
yeah.
back together, it's like you realize, wait, we got to be open to
That's a
life.
great story actually.
Which part?
When I remember when I'm like, so again, like I said, Jesus had lit me on fire. I was listening to Catholic radio like constantly, and I'm learning all these things, and I'm like, wow, like I remember approaching Bill, and I said, we're Catholic, and can't use birth control anymore. And he was like, what? And he literally said, like, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life. Like,
Yeah.
it's so funny.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the blessings was just Catholic radio. Like
Yeah,
we just had it on all the time. And again, when you don't know where to go for information, it
yeah.
was
It's a
for
really
all
great
of us like,
resource. Yeah.
yeah, we're like saying we're all in God, but we don't even know what that means, like,
Yeah.
and we're just slowly would learn more and more. Yeah, and then
Yeah.
You
contraception
reconcile and you
came
have
out.
four more kids. I mean,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
they're
Which are
probably thrilled.
they really are such a miracle. I was actually just reminded at the retreat that I was on that I had gone after my second daughter because, it was like the responsible thing to do. Like, and I have to have C-section. So they were like, well, you should probably get an IUD. And I was like, yeah, definitely, so I'm like literally in the room and the doctor says, he's like, and it was terrible. And he said, your uterus is so tipped that if I was to like push this, like you getting this, he's like, I'm gonna puncture your bladder. And he's like, I just can't do this. And it was so funny because at the time, they kind of laughed as I was leaving because they couldn't do it. And they're like, oh, well, because my mother-in-law was watching the kids. They're like, oh, tell your mother-in-law we said congratulations on the next grandchild. And I mean, that wasn't going to be till 3 more years, but it's just so funny because God spared me because the horror stories I have heard of
I
people
know.
getting the IUDs. Oh my word. And I was so glad God reminded me of that the other day because I'm so grateful that that wasn't able to happen. They have to have hysterectomies, they get lost inside of people's
Yeah.
bodies. Like this crazy, crazy stuff happens. So it was just another time where I sat there and I said, thank you, Jesus, for being so merciful to me. He really was. He really was.
yeah.
I-
So I mean, going back to Fine Mercy, I would say probably for me the cap to where we were in a very good spot as a couple and as a family was, kind of through our reconciling. We had, been praying by mercy and all that, like we've been going to church, we've been, learning and whatever. And again, we're still on a journey, like
Yeah.
we're
Oh,
not
yeah.
done yet, like you still learn new stuff, you still get better, you
Right.
still fall and go back to confession, like we're confession junkies and all that. So,
Confession
but
junkies.
we had she became pregnant with our son, the first child after we were separated. And he ended up being born on August 25th. So
St. Faustina's birthday.
so it's
Oh,
St. Faustina's birthday.
Divine
yeah.
mercy. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yes. And
Yeah.
so the other funny thing was that we had his nickname when he was growing. Actually, it's still his
Right
nickname
away.
now.
Yeah, it was right away, and it's still to this day.
Yeah, we always call him Woods when we're joking around with him, Woods, and I
It's Wudge. Wudge.
Woods, yeah. And so
Weirdest word ever.
I think he like mumbled it or something when he was a
Yeah.
kid or
He
something.
did.
And
That's
so
how it
yeah,
started.
so
Yeah.
we started calling him Woods, and we found out I don't know how many years later, but it like
7 years later.
yeah, it was crazy that we made the connection as we're listening to the audiobook, I
Yep.
think, of like
Yep.
the Diary
St.
of St.
Faustina.
Faustina's Diary, like where she encountered Jesus at the dance that she was at
Yeah.
was Woodge, Poland. And so we're like, oh wow, that's pretty wild.
I literally I rewound it and I was like, what did they just say? I was like, Wudge Poland. I'm like, what? So that was super crazy. But you remember the thing with my mom with the boat?
Yeah. Yeah. So her mom had said that something like,
This was in the
you,
very
you
the
can
very
tell that
beginning.
part,
So
but
so when we were like still going back and forth, and I remember I called my mom one day when Steph was not good. I called my mom one day. I said, "Mom, I can't do this. I can't do this. This is crazy, Mom. I just need to be done." And she said, "Nikki, you need to listen to me." She goes, "There's God is showing me that." She goes, "What this means?" She said, "You're gonna have a boat." And I go, "You don't care about a boat?" And she goes, "No." She goes, "I don't know what it means." She goes, "Does Bill like boats?" They said, "Well, yeah, he likes boats, but I'm like, I don't know why that would be significant, Mom, but she's like, she was very adamant. She said, you're gonna have a boat. And then as I'm hearing this thing with St. Faustina about Łódź, Poland, I literally looked up what the word Łódź, what it means, and it literally means boat. And I called my mom and I said, Mom, now this is again 7 or 8 years later. And I'm like, Mom, you are not going to believe what I just discovered. And, it's just, again, it was so, and we could go on. I mean, seriously, we could go on and on with the
Right.
miracles that God has done. Those are two small, super small, stories, but like the miracles in all this walk with Jesus. But I just go back to like, if you ask him and you say, Jesus, we want this, like, this is just special for me and Bill. Like, he wants to do this for everybody. He wants you to trust him. The more that we trust him and surrender our will to him, he will just pour it out. He wants to do that. So,
Yeah.
we could go on with the miracle aspects of things and the signal graces we've been given for God to show us, the beauty of the importance of marriage and our children, and they're all such a gift. But yeah, I mean, he wants to do it for everyone.
He does. Can I ask you a question? Because you said something I wrote a note about, which was very important in mine. I completely believe my reconciliation was because my mother and my husband's mother were both very prayerful women and they were praying. And so you had
Mm.
mentioned your mother's prayers. How
Oh, yeah.
instrumental in your reconciliation do you think her prayers were? And Bill,
Oh,
was your
that
mom
and
praying
my
too?
dad too.
Yeah,
My dad was
yeah,
just he just kind of found the prayer too, and he just started
yeah.
praying the divine
It's so
mercy every
funny.
day. Like yeah,
Yeah,
like he
yeah,
Nikki's mom was like the one telling her about it, but my
yeah.
dad was praying it for us too. So we had both sides of our family like
That's
praying the divine
awesome.
mercy too before our
That's
marriage.
Funny, Christine, because we found out like after that Bill's dad had this devotion to divine mercy. Like, and he told us, he was like, after the fact, like he that was already implemented in his life.
Mm.
And so we were just blown away by that. We had no idea. We didn't know that his dad was praying the Divine Mercy Chaplet. Like, and again, I'm not sure how had come across it, but I mean, his dad had already been praying it, and then my mom had come across it. So it was very apparent that like God, like it was like the Divine Mercy was what Jesus used
Yeah,
for us specifically, 100%.
Mm.
which
Like,
is why you have the picture in your room.
oh, and
Um,
yeah, and that's exactly why. Yeah.
So what people, so you guys are together about 3 years, apart for about 3 years. You've been back together now for how many more years?
Well, since about 13 or 14. No, because Landon. So Landon's 12.
Oh yeah,
So it's been about
Okay, so you've
13
been back
years.
together. What would you say for the couples who are watching or the individuals who are watching and thinking, yeah, it's great. My spouse would never get back with me, or we're already divorced, so I know you guys never divorced, so yours was easier. What could you say to encourage other couples or individuals that are watching and hoping for a reconciliation as well? What advice would you offer them?
I think the biggest thing for me is like you need to go all in with God for
Yeah.
like number one. Like,
Yeah.
like once God became
Hmm.
the glue that held us together, right? And you don't get that. Like if I'm relying on Nikki or she's relying on me to be the one to hold the family up, like
Hmm.
That's right.
not gonna work out because we're fallible,
Yeah.
God's infallible. And so
Yeah.
you go all in with God and
They'll
Yeah.
take
I
you
mean he'll
places.
he'll he'll work wonders, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Seriously, the more you trust, like, and to know that all of heaven wants marriages restored. Like, you literally have all the angels, all the saints, Jesus, Mary, Joseph, everybody, the souls in purgatory. I mean, if you ask their help, they want this. And it doesn't mean it's going to be easy. And that's one thing, like, still to this day, I mean, we're still growing as a couple. I mean, every single day. Like,
Yeah.
I'm married
it's
42 years and we're growing every day. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, for sure. So it's not that it magically just, it doesn't. I also think too, not looking for your spouse to be, your what's the word?
Savior.
Yeah, your spirit.
Later.
Yes. Like, because that's not what marriage is. Like, I'm married and remember, wow, Barbara McWigan, I love her. when she told me, Nikki, your job is to get your spouse to heaven. No one had ever said that to
I
me.
know.
And if that is our job, and it's like no matter how hard that is, like we made a vow and we are going to stand here and know that it's hard, but God is going to give you every grace that you need. And like Bill said, maybe not in our time, maybe not in the way that we think it should happen. If we need something for our marriage, like, and we're meant to, that this marriage is meant to help us to become a saint, then that means that God has the grace there for us. Like it's there. We just have to ask Him.
Name one thing you'd have our listeners do differently as a result of something we talked about today.
Mm. I would, man, just it's so simple and it's so hard sometimes, but you just have to trust that God's in control. I mean, you don't, you're not doing everything. Like you don't have the weight of the world on your shoulders. You don't have like God's the one doing everything. You have to trust that He's in control.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's super difficult sometimes.
Yeah. And really uniting your will to His. And I think too, like something I think about a lot is what even for if there's anyone listening that maybe they're not married yet, and I think the other thing that is just so important is realizing, and if we've made them just like we did, like we didn't have the education to have a good foundation, but to go back to if you're able to create that good foundation for a marriage, like confession as much as possible as a couple, and like praying, going to mass and praying and building your relationship with Jesus the most. But if there's things that you look back and you're like, well, yeah, this is why this probably happened. Do your best to kind of, fix those things as best as you can within yourself, I think. Like Bill was saying, before you're like, oh, hey, I need to fix you, like, are you going to
Right.
confession
Fill yourself
regularly?
with grace. It's like,
Yeah, yeah,
are you
because
clean? Are you,
yeah,
like, are you
yeah,
receiving the Eucharist? Are you, yeah, like,
yeah,
exactly.
for
Fill
sure.
yourself with graces.
Yeah, and keep your eyes on Jesus, and even though there's a lot of things that we're like, man, I wish I wouldn't have done that, or all these things, but in just to know, the more I think it really, this is the common thing, is the more that you trust in Jesus and know, and the enemy, I mean, you have to realize it is a battle. This is a serious battle. If you have children, you're
Absolutely.
battling not just for you, you're battling for them
For them.
also. So you have to, it's like we don't want to give the enemy any credit. We don't want to give him more attention than he needs, but we also have to be aware that this
That
is
he
a
is
very
there and he
serious
is.
battle.
Yep. The
It
final
really
battle
is.
between God and Satan would be for marriage and the family. And that's what Our Lady
Yes.
told the children at Fatima. And we are
Mhm.
living in those days now. And I praise God that you guys continue to fight. I know that you've fought and you've
Mhm.
appeared to
Yes.
have won, but that you continue to
Yep.
stand on your vows as my husband and I do. And
Yep.
say, Satan, we're not going to let you in. Continue to pray your rosaries together. Continue to do your
Yep.
chaplets together. Receive nothing more powerful than receiving the sacraments together. And
Yes.
I think that will save many marriages. It has been over an hour, and I hate having to send us off. But if anybody would be interested in having Nikki and Bill speak at their group or their church, you can give them a call. And we've agreed, if you do want to contact with them, just reach out to me here at Christine@breakfastwithbacon.com, or just post right here in the show notes and I can connect you with them. Also, I would love if you would follow me on any of my places, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I can't even think of all the places, but they're right below there in the show notes. And what else? What else do I tell them? I think that's it, right? Just go to my website, breakfastwithbacon.com. Help me to help you save marriages. And we're all really just doing this together. God gave me the mission of saving 1 million marriages before I die. And everyone that watches this show will somehow help me to fulfill that desire. Because, as they said earlier, when one person encourages a marriage, it has repercussions go so much further. When one person sees it, one person encourages it, just like one person tries to destroy your marriage, One
Yeah.
person says, you can do this. Be that mother, be that grandmother. Don't think that your prayers aren't happening. Speak to your divorcing children and tell them you don't have to do this.
Yes.
All they need is one voice. So,
Yes.
Nikki, Bill,
Amen.
thank you guys so
Mhm.
much for coming on
Thanks
and
for
for
having
just
us.
doing your best for living the Catholic life. And I stand united with you in this fighting for marriages by fighting for our own first. So thank you.
Amen.
Thanks for reaching
Thank
out
you.
to me.
Yes.
Oh,
Hey,
and if you guys watching have a good testimony, reach out to me at
yeah, there you
christinabreakfast.com, and
go.
we'd love to put you out here. Don't be terrified, like, oh no, I don't want to do it. Just at least give me a call first. Let's try that part. All right. See if you kids remember how we go off the air. I think you remember, right? You're
Yeah.
smart. I am Dr. Christine Bacon. You've been watching Breakfast with Bacon, and I'd like to remind you always to live your life.
That is
Thanks, Ryan.
Got it.